What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Money YouTube channel. And it is cold out here. We had a pretty significant cold front push through the area, and the air temps right now are just a little bit over 30 degrees. So I think like 34, 35 degrees. Beautiful bluebird skies. Got a little bit of north wind, so we're going to be fishing on the north side of the lake for the most part to somewhat stay out of that wind because it is cold. Water temps not bad. It's like 40, 49 or so. Almost 50 degrees. But it's been a lot warmer. We've had a lot of cold nights. This morning was like 22 degrees. And things were moving in the right direction as far as the fish pushing up shallow. But it's been a little bit funky. We've had some up and down weather, some cold front, some rain. And it's just that early pre-spawn kind of funky stuff. You know, it gets kind of weird right before the water warms up and stays a consistent temperature. You need some warm nights, a lot of warm nights, and full sunshine to help those fish start moving up. They were on their way and they were up shallow, and they may be today, I don't know. Just getting out here and we're getting ready to start out on this point. I'm gonna look at some brush piles and see if we can, I don't know, just locate some bait, and we're gonna just kind of keep it open. Probably gonna be throwing a jerkbait a little bit because the fish are in a little bit of a funk, so I don't know how aggressive they were gonna be. A couple weeks ago, you can go down the bank and throw like a swim jig and, you know, some moving baits and get bites, and that may be the case today. You just never know. You got to get out here and try. But we're gonna put this camera down and see if we can come up with a few fish before it gets dark. I'm just glad to be out here on the water. Had a stressful week at work. It's nice to get out on the water and kind of clear your mind and just go fishing. We'll see what happens. Got a little bit of bait here on the side scan, down scan. Might make a few casts down there and see what's going on. I'm kind of looking out deeper. I'm going to look out a little bit deeper today. I've been fishing kind of shallow because it is that time of year, but I'm going to try to look out just a little bit deeper, see what's going on. Kind of these, I don't know, staging areas, pre-spawn areas, just winter stuff, places the fish hang in winter, because I'm always trying to be ahead of the fish, and a lot of times I miss a bite because it's still the bite that we were supposedly coming off of, but it hasn't actually happened yet. So kind of got to backtrack sometimes, and that's what we're doing today. There he is. Got him. Is that bass or crappie? Crappie? It's crappie. There we go. Just throwing this is a little minnow bait by Dream Express Lures. I just got these from June Shoji. I'm out here playing around with it. 8-pound test, just a spin cast outfit. Just cast into these fish are swimming around. Some of them are crappie, some of them are bass. That was a crappie, obviously, but just kind of a different way of fishing. It's kind of Moping / Jamaica rig. Yeah, cool little minnow. Crappie thing. Yeah, crappie. Another crappie. Little midday report. It's been tough for me, guys. It's been tough for me. I've fished for a couple hours, and you know, I really haven't got many bites. Got a few bites out deep, just over brush piles with crappie, and that's not really what I came to do. I got bored, so I tried that. And so I've been fishing some points, fishing some brush, fishing a little bit of grass just inside some of these coves, and I decided to just completely switch it up. I'm gonna try fishing a jig, just kind of a finesse jig on some of these rocks, and I just needed a break. Need to go run around and do something different. So we'll see what happens, but it's, you know, it's a beautiful day out here. You get in the shade and it gets cold, but as long as you're out in the sun, you're all right. My hands have gotten numb a couple times, but I've been able to fish so far without gloves. It's gonna change as it gets closer to dark, but we got a couple hours to fish. Let's see if we can, I don't know, just keep bouncing around, and that's how it is, you know. It's still wintertime, guys. It is still wintertime. We want them to be up shallow and on the bank and munching, but it's you get a couple cold fronts like this and it just shuts things down. So we're not giving up though. Oh, bite. Bite. There he is. Ha ha. Finesse jig bite, baby. And I've had 3 or 4 bites on this, but they're biting so soft. That's a good fish. He ate it. I'm just missing him. I don't know why. There we go, folks. You know, I couldn't get a jerkbait bite going, and I just decided to start fishing some of these bluffs, and that fish ate it. It's like the 3rd or 4th bite I've had like that, but I keep missing them. So they're just really finicky right now. Water temperature's warm enough, but just, you know, post-frontal days, and they just get funky like that. So it's good to get a nice bite. Just throwing this little Cumberland Pro Lil Runt Finesse Jig. It's 1/4 ounce. And I got a little baby Rage Menace on there. So just a super subtle presentation. Throwing this on 15-pound test. This is that Virtus Jewel swim jig rod, 7'2" medium heavy, and just a Daiwa Tatula. And man, we're just crawling jig around this rock, hoping for a bite. It's been tough out here. Look at that. Told you it's cold out here. Got ice. It's even in the sun. Still got ice. Ice, baby. Bite. That was a bite. God, I missed that fish. Oh, he's swimming off with it. This nasty green stuff. Nasty algae all over the rocks right now. Happens every early spring. Keeps, kind of stays there until, I don't know, like May. But it's hard to fish rocks right now with a jig. That felt like a bite. That is a bite. Snatched the one. That's a good fish. Come off that rock. Tink. Solid fish. Beautiful fish. Another jig, a little finesse jig. There we go. Look at that. Pretty fish. Finesse jig in the grill. That's fun, man. That's fun. Getting a few bites, you know. Getting a few bites. I'm about to hit these rocks. See how that hook, that jig pinned that fish. I mean, it's a small hook, but man, it's a stout hook. You're not gonna bend it out. And once you get a hook in them, man, you ain't gonna lose them. It just pins them really good. In fact, I'm gonna have to get the pliers after this one. I think, there we go. Skinny fish, but pretty. Get that yellow in their mouth. It's really strange. All right, let's try it again. We got a little bit of time. Keep running this little jig pattern. It's that time of year, man, you know. Crawfish kind of start looking around and creeping around, and I don't know. I'm tired of throwing jerkbait. It's like a 5XD up there on the bank. That little twig. I don't want it that bad to mess my boat up. You've been getting a bite. You got this rock right here, just solid bluff, and then these little bitty short little cuts like this right here. It's a little rock change. You got solid rock there, and then you got some actual natural riprap type of stuff, just chunk rock. This is kind of areas where I've been getting bites. Each one of these I've got a bite or two. You know, I haven't hooked up with the fish, but I have gotten a bite. So maybe that's what we need to be doing. Just staying out here, throwing around these rocks and looking for these, just these little subtle rock changes. Bite, missed him. Still on there. Dang it. Little guy, we got him. It's all right. Take him. What up, Debo? Starting to get a lot of bites on this little jig. And they're around the corner of this bluff. There we go. Oh, God. Oh, that was a big fish. That was a big fish, guys. Oh, dang it. Kept waiting for my jig to tighten up. Dang it. Boy, that was a good one. I couldn't see because of this, you know, we got shade over here. I couldn't see my line, but I just kept pulling and waiting to feel some resistance, and it just never happened. And I set, and the fish grabbed it. The fish was suspended right along these bluffs. That was a heavy, heavy fish. Dang it. Sleep at the wheel, folks. Sleep at the wheel. That's the bite we were looking for. I blew that. That was a good one. God, that line was just, it never got tight, and I couldn't really see it. And when my brain was like, oh, you need to set the hook just in case. I mean, there was a bunch of meat on the end of that line. All right, let's talk a little bit about what was going on today. I kind of slept in, didn't get on the water till about 2 o'clock. And the reason why was because it was so cold. It was like 22 degrees in the morning. We had a bunch of really cold mornings, some kind of mid 40 to 50 degree days, and just cold fronts, rain, kind of up and down this time of year. It's late winter, and that kind of happens. You got a lot of fronts coming through. But I was fishing, you know, places where I thought the fish would be, and I just couldn't get by throwing the jerk bait. And I was throwing that little minnow by Dream Express lures, just kind of messing around with those crappie because I couldn't get a bite. I just wanted to get my line tight, you know. And I remembered I just got these jigs from Cumberland Pro Lures. They're the Lil Runt Finesse Jig. Really cool little jig, and I love jig fishing. So I'm like, let's go throw a jig. It's that time of year, and when it's really, really tough, that's one of the best things you can use to get a bite. So that's what I did. I kind of pivoted, I went over and I found some rocky areas and I started throwing this jig around. Now, a finesse jig is something that I really like to throw in the cold water. I personally think you get more bites, and a lot of times they're pretty good fish. Just because it's a compact bait does not mean that you won't catch big fish on it. I think a lot of times the fish, when it's a little bit colder, the water's colder, you know, things are kind of funky, they get kind of finicky. You got to go finesse, and that applies to a jig as well. But this little jig here is pretty cool. It comes in like 7 different colors. The color I was throwing today is called Wild Grape. Yeah, Wild Grape. It's got, let me grab it real quick. It's got some green pumpkins in it, some watermelon, and a little bit of blue, purple, a little bit of like purple. Really cool looking jig, really finessey, compact. It's got a 2/0 hook on it, but it's not a wimpy light wire hook by any means. You can throw this on, you know, I was throwing on a 15-pound test. It's not gonna bend out. You could probably even throw this on break, guys. I'm serious. I mean, it's a small package, but it's a meaty hook, and the weed guard is placed just right. I mean, look at it in reference to that hook point. It's right where you need it, and I'll spread that out a little bit. A lot of times, if I feel like I'm gonna be getting hung up, if I'm actually getting hung up, a lot of times I just kind of spread that out. And that was the cool thing about this jig. I fished it for probably a couple hours, and I only got hung up 1 time, which is kind of impressive to me. Come on. We got the auto Trieve. All right, come in, auto Trieve, do your thing. Do your thing. Do your thing, auto Trieve. Oh crap, there's a tree. Auto Trieve. Get it? No. Thought it did. There it is. Got it. Auto Trieve. My camera's getting hammered back there. I just saved that jig. No doubt about it. About to lose my camera, my nav light. We got a cluster. We got ice falling off the cliff. Okay, we're good. This is a ball head style jig. The problem you'll have with most ball head jigs is they want to roll over. They're super finessey, they have a nice profile, they handle well, but they have a tendency to roll over, and when they roll over, they're gonna get hung up a lot more. This jig right here is a little bit different than most. It's got this little flat spot. You really can't see it on camera, but there's just a little bit of a flat spot, and it keeps it from rolling over. It's pretty impressive, and you know, this is really the first time I've kept it in my hand was today, and like I said, it comes through the rocks really, really good. Got a nice keeper on it. Let me show you the keeper real quick. Just your standard keeper, nothing fancy about that. But a finesse skirt, so it's really really lightweight. It moves around. It's got a lot of action, and it's got the finesse cut, but it's not a really short finesse cut. It's cut a little bit longer, so it's still going to have some action. You know, if you cut it really, really short, it's kind of stiff. You still get that kind of crawfish tail profile, but leaving it just a little bit longer like this, you get a little more action. And if you want to trim it down, you can trim it down. As far as trailers, I was using this Baby Rage Menace. This is a really cool little finesse bait. Some other trailers that I've used is the Baby Rage Crawl. Grab it real quick. Rage Baby Crawl. It's just, everybody knows what a Rage Crawl is. Super popular. That's one of my favorite baits of all time. But this is just a little finesse version of that sucker. It's really cute. I mean, it pairs up nicely with this jig. You can see, I mean, it's made for these little finesse jigs. That's a perfect trailer to throw on the back of there. Zoom Speed Crawl is another one that I would throw on the back. You can throw the Crocodigator, makes the beaver bug. If you've followed my channel, you've seen me throw this a lot. I would tear these little legs off of this and probably pinch this down a little bit. It's got that big paddle tail on there. Well, it's actually a little paddle tail. That's a great finesse bait. You could even take a little swim bait like this swimmer from Hawgz Custom Baits, like a 3.3. You can put it on there. Even dragging it along the bottom, it's gonna just do this. It's not overbearing if you're not reeling it in. Or you can actually pinch the paddle off, and you just got that little kind of spunk shad looking tail on there. And another thing that you can put on the back is some kind of a Ned bait, or this is just a 4 1/4, just a little finesse worm by Hawgz Custom Bait. You can put that on there. something I kind of been playing around with. I know a lot of guys do it, but you could cut that down, cut about that much of it off, and just put it like that. It's a pretty neat package. Thing I like about a finesse jig, obviously it's a smaller profile. When the fish are funky, finicky, you're gonna get a lot more bites. It appeals to fish of all sizes, but it's got a slow fall rate, which sometimes can be key when the fish are in a neutral mood. These fish in the winter, they get suspended. This, I was throwing a 1/4 ounce. This jig comes at a 1/4 and 3/8, but I was throwing a 1/4 ounce today with that little baby Rage Menace, and I was watching it on live scope, and it falls really slow. So that gives the suspended fish an opportunity to grab this as it's kind of falling through them. And then sometimes they'll follow it, a lot of times they'll follow it all the way to the bottom, and then just kind of sit there and look at it. Another thing I like about this lighter weight jig, like a 1/4 ounce versus a 3/8 or a half, is it forces you to fish it really slow. That 1/4 ounce jig, you got to let it get down. And I was fishing with 15-pound test. I would rather have fished with 12-pound test, but that's the rod that I had rigged up, had 15-pound test. And this is a Jewel Virtus. This is their 7'2" swim jig rod, the Red Diamond series. And I've been throwing a swim jig and a chatterbait with this, but I have been tinkering around and kind of mixing it up and throwing like light Texas rig, like 3/8 ounce or smaller, and then this light jig. I just wanted to see how it handled on the jig. And it's a super sensitive rod, very light in your hand, and it handles these finesse jigs really well. I've just got it paired up with a Tatula. This is 8-to-1 gear ratio Tatula, and then 15-pound. I think this is Seagar, maybe Invisex or something, but fluorocarbon line. Nothing fancy, just pretty straightforward, but sensitive rod. You want something with kind of a light action tip, you know, a little bit softer tip. This is a swim jig rod. It's great chatterbait rod, great swim jig rod, great light spinnerbait rod, but it's got some tip. So you're not pulling that finesse jig too far, and that's key. Like I said earlier, fishing that lighter finesse jig, it forces you to slow down. Same situations you would throw a shaky head or a Ned head, a Ned rig. This little finesse jig comes in handy, and it's going to get you some bites. Ooh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, and they're on these bluffs. Good bite. There we go. That's a good fish. That's a good fish. Come here, Buster. All right. Go, man. Fat fish, man. Right in the grill. Right where you're supposed to get them at. Just, you know, something about a slow fall sometimes when the water, when the fish are kind of funky. I mean, there's ice falling off these bluffs. It's kind of scary. But something about a slow fall. All right, folks. That's a nice fish. You know, this is a 1/4 ounce jig, and I could fish a 3/8 ounce. This Lil Runt comes in a 3/8 ounce as well. But there's something about, you know, a really slow fall when the fish are finicky. These fishing these bluffs, I've been kind of focusing on these bluffs, and it's paying off. And you know, I'm just able to kind of float that thing off the bluff, and when you pop it up, it just kind of stalls out, almost suspends for a little bit. I think it gives these fish a little bit more time to look at it, especially if the fish are actually suspended. This bait will fall through them a little slower, and they can follow it down. And man, this hook, God, I mean, it gets them. They're hard. Every one of these has been just really, really pinned. So it's a really cool little jig. It's like a 2-aught hook. I'll talk a little bit more about it here in a little bit, but nice fish, man. Nice fish. This rod right here too, man. Been playing around with this rod. This is the, man, that stuff's crazy. Got ice coming off these bluffs. This is that Virtus Jewel 7'2" swim jig rod, and I've been playing around with it just for different applications, and it's working really good for throwing like a 1/4 ounce to 3/8 ounce jig or Texas rig or whatever. It's a stupid sensitive rod. My hands are slimy. Another thing that I really like to do in the late winter, springtime is use some spike it markers and just hit the tips of whatever trailer I've got with orange. I really think that orange, there's something about orange in the cold water period, you know, that late winter, early spring period. I'll still use the chartreuse, but I think it's a special time to use that orange. For whatever reason, they like that orange. And I keep them both in my boat. but this time of year I'm going with the orange. They have this jig comes with a lot of cool colors. This is a cool color. You don't see white all that often in a jig. This is something I'm going to be throwing around. I'm going to put a little fluke on the back of that, or a little Hawgz swimmer on the back, and kind of slow roll that. Probably not. I mean, I could probably do that anytime. I just haven't done it. I was just kind of trying to mimic a crawfish or a bluegill. And the other color that I'm really excited about that's going to come into play is this GPO. It's green pumpkin orange. The orange is the deal, like I told you. But this thing right here, it's got that green pumpkin kind of watermelon color, and it's got that orange skirt. There's something about orange in spring.
I knew there was a fish up there. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Thank God for this little jig. Get up there. Sucker. Ah. Came off. Got my gloves wet, got my shoes wet. But we caught your little butt. All right, folks. Man, we worked hard today just to catch some fish. And thank God I picked up this little finesse jig. It's a cool little bait. It's a Lil Runt Finesse Jig by Cumberland Pro. Just had a little bitty Rage Menace, baby Rage Menace. Fishing was tough. You know, it gets like that in the wintertime. We're still in the wintertime, and the fish are slowly making their transition from their wintering holes to their pre-spawn areas. And, you know, you get cold fronts like this. It was like 22 degrees this morning. I wish I would have got up a little bit earlier, got out of bed. But 22 degrees is a little bit too cold for me. Even at like noon, it was just right at freezing. But I still wish I would have came out here by 11 and had a couple more hours to run this jig pattern, because I really think this is something that's starting to go on. And there's a lot of other, you know, rocky, bluffy type places that I would have loved to hit, but we just ran out of time. And that's what we were keen on today. You know, a lot of these bluffs, they come down kind of steep, drop off, and then they got a little ledge. So we're just kind of fishing that right up against the bluff and that first little drop, and that's where we got most of our bites. We had quite a few bites, actually. I missed a lot of fish today. They were biting real soft, and a lot of times I would feel them. This rod's super sensitive, and I'd feel just something barely pulling on it, and just wasn't totally in the zone today, and I missed quite a few fish. We had the opportunity to catch a really big one. That one that I was fishing in the shade, and I couldn't see my line, and I just kept reeling down, waiting for it to get tied, and finally my brain's like, set the hook, dummy, and I said, and it was a good fish. So I would have liked to seen that, but you know, regardless, we did catch some fish. And when it's tough, can't get bit, a little finesse jig like this, a little 1/4 ounce finesse jig, maybe 3/8, but something real small, a real small trailer on 12 to 15 pound test, just a 7 to 7'3" medium heavy rod. It'll get you some bites if you just drag it around. Take your time, drag it around slow and low. So give me a thumbs up if you appreciate the content, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.